All right, ready to dig in. Today we're tackling regenerative agriculture.
Yeah, and we've got those two students, Kesser and Steen, really interested in this.
Right. You guys sent in their research on the future of food.
Mm-hmm.
They're actually planning a trip to Brown's Ranch in North Dakota
Pretty cool.
to see it all firsthand.
That's the place to be if you want to see how sustainable farming can work, especially on a larger scale.
Totally. The idea of ditching all those chemical fertilizers and pesticides
Right.
and just letting cows do their thing, it's fascinating.
Absolutely.
But before we get too far, maybe we should start with the basics. What exactly is regenerative agriculture?
Well, it's one of those terms that gets thrown around a lot these days.
Yeah.
But it's not so simple to define. You're not going to find one clear-cut definition in a textbook.
Right.
Even researchers like Schriefel and her team, in their paper, Regenerative Agriculture, the Soil is the Base,
Okay.
they say it's more like a philosophy
Uh-huh.
with some shared principles rather than like a strict set of rules.
So it's more about a way of thinking,
Exactly.
a mindset.
Yeah, it's about shifting your perspective.
Okay, I can see that.
But even though there's no official rule book,
Yeah.
there are definitely some core themes.
Okay, so what are we talking about here?
Well, think of it as a web
Okay.
with environmental regeneration right at the center.
Next generation.
And they really mean regeneration.
Okay, so not just sustaining what's already there.
No.
We're talking about rebuilding.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're talking about soil health, biodiversity, water cycles, the whole ecosystem.
The whole shebang.
Yeah,
Makes sense if you're looking to the long game for food production,
exactly.
which I think is what Kesser and Steen are really interested in.
Right. And that's where Brown's Ranch comes into play.
Oh, yeah.
They're a prime example of all this in action.
Okay,
They really walk the walk.
so tell me about Brown's Ranch.
Well, Gabe Brown, the rancher, he's become a bit of a guru in this world. He even wrote a book called Dirt to Soil, and his TED Talk is a great place to start if you want to learn more.
I'll have to check those out.
Yeah, definitely.
But back to the ranch itself.
Sure.
How did they become, like, the Trill Cow poster child for regenerative agriculture?
It's funny, they didn't actually start out that way.
Right.
They were a conventional farm,
Okay.
using all the typical chemical stuff.
Right.
But over time, they started to question whether that was really sustainable.
Uh-huh.
That's when they came across holistic management. It's a framework for making decisions, but it takes the entire ecosystem into account.
So not just focusing on one little piece of the puzzle.
Nope. They started looking at the big picture,
I like that.
and they began incorporating these different practices like no-till farming,
Okay.
planting a variety of crops,
Right.
using cover crops to protect and feed the soil.
Those are all things Kesser and Steen were researching, I think.
Yes, and of course, the big one, they stopped using synthetic fertilizers and pesticides entirely.
Wow. That's a bold move.
It is.
And I bet Kesser and Steen are especially curious about the livestock aspect of all this.
Oh, absolutely. Their grazing strategy is key.
Right, because we were talking earlier about those students wanting to see farms where, like, the cows are really doing their job.
Yeah, but it's not just about letting the cows roam free.
Right.
They have a very specific system. They call it high stock density grazing.
High stock density.
Yeah, sometimes it's also called mob grazing.
Mob grazing. Okay, now I'm intrigued.
So picture this. They move a huge herd of cattle
Okay.
through a small area
Uh-huh.
for a very short time.
Okay.
They're basically mimicking the natural grazing patterns of, wild herds.
Interesting.
And this does all sorts of things. It helps trample down plant matter, fertilize the soil, stimulate new growth.
Wow.
It's like this carefully choreographed dance between the cows and the land.
So they're not just using the cattle for meat or dairy. They're
No.
actually using them to improve the land.
Exactly.
That's pretty amazing.
And to make it all even more efficient, they've gone high-tech.
Oh.
They use solar-powered automatic gate openers.
What?
Yeah, to control where the cattle go.
So are these cows, like, carrying iPads?
Yeah.
Scheduling their own grazing time?
Not quite.
But it's really cool that they're using technology in such a sustainable way.
It is. It shows how innovative they are.
Yeah.
And it really highlights an important point. Regenerative agriculture isn't about rejecting technology.
Right.
It's about using it wisely.
Yeah, using it to support the health of the whole system.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got the big picture.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about the philosophy.
Yep.
But let's get down to brass tacks. We know it's good for the environment.
Right.
But what about for the Browns themselves?
That's where things get really interesting.
Okay, tell me more.
The benefits go way beyond just feeling good. You know, we're talking about real improvements, things that directly address what Kesser and Steen are interested in, truly sustainable food production, environmentally, socially, economically.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Remember how we were talking about Kesser and Steen's concerns about pesticide use?
Yeah.
Well, get this. At Brown's Ranch, they've pretty much eliminated insecticides.
Really?
Yeah, they're letting nature do the pest control.
So they've got, like, an army of good bugs working for them.
Exactly. Beneficial insects like dung beetles, their populations have exploded.
Wow.
And birds are naturally keeping those pests in check. It's a totally different picture from the chemical warfare you see in conventional farming.
Right.
It's a balanced ecosystem.
Fewer chemicals, healthier environment, healthier food,
Exactly.
healthier people.
It's all connected.
It all comes back around.
And here's something else that's really cool. Without all those pesticides interfering, the Browns can actually see which of their cattle breeds are naturally more resistant to pests.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So they're using this natural selection process to inform their breeding program.
Exactly.
Wow, that's pretty next level.
It is. It all comes back to that holistic management approach.
Yeah.
They're not just reacting to problems.
Right.
They're thinking ahead.
Right.
They're proactively building a resilient system.
I like that.
And listen, this isn't just some, like, hippie ideal.
Okay.
This is making them money.
Wait, so being environmentally conscious is actually good for their business?
Think about it. No more spending on expensive chemicals.
Right.
Their yields are up, and their products are in high demand because people are willing to pay a premium for food that's produced sustainably.
It's like they found that sweet spot
Yeah.
where doing good for the planet
Yeah.
and doing good for their business actually align.
Exactly.
That's pretty awesome.
It is.
That's got to be what Kesser and Steen are hoping for.
Absolutely. And it's not just Brown's Ranch either.
Oh, really?
Gabe Brown, he founded a company called Understanding Ag.
Okay.
They help other farmers and ranchers make the switch to regenerative practices. They're working all over the U.S., internationally even,
Oh, wow.
down in Uruguay and Argentina.
Wow.
It's really spreading.
That's amazing.
It is.
I bet Kesser and Steen would love to connect with them.
Oh, for sure. Maybe even intern there someday.
Yeah, right? Imagine.
Yeah.
Visiting Brown's Ranch.
Walking those fields.
Talking to the people.
Seeing it all firsthand.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine? They could see those cover crops.
Yeah.
The healthy soil. The cattle grazing.
Yeah, like a real-life example of everything they've been researching.
Yeah, and they could ask Gabe Brown all their questions.
Right.
About how it all works, the nuts and bolts.
A crash course in sustainable farming
Yeah.
taught by the pioneer himself. It would be incredible.
Yeah, what?
You know, it's one thing to read about all of this.
Yeah.
But to actually see it.
Mm-hmm.
To be there.
Yeah.
To feel the soil.
Right.
To breathe that fresh air.
It's totally different.
It's got to be inspiring.
It's like the difference between reading about a masterpiece
Yeah.
and actually standing in front of it.
Totally. Okay, so we've talked about how great regenerative agriculture is, how beneficial it is.
Yeah.
But if it's so great,
Yeah.
why isn't everybody doing it?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is.
There are definitely a few roadblocks.
Okay, so what are the main challenges?
Well, first off, there's a knowledge gap.
Okay.
A lot of farmers and ranchers, they just aren't familiar with these practices. Or they might have some outdated ideas about them.
Okay.
You know, like whether they really work or whether they're too expensive.
Right, right.
That kind of thing.
It makes sense. I mean,
Okay,
change can be scary, especially when you're talking about something as essential as food production.
Right. And then there's also the issue of access.
Access to what?
To information.
Okay.
Support.
Okay.
You know, organizations like Understanding Ag, they're doing great work. But we need more resources.
Okay.
More training programs.
Right.
More mentorships.
Yeah.
Especially for smaller farms and new farmers.
So we need to build a stronger support system for the people who want to make this change.
Exactly. And then on top of that, there are the systemic hurdles.
What do you mean by that?
Well, think about government policies.
Okay.
Market forces.
Okay.
Things that tend to favor big industrial agriculture over the smaller, more sustainable operations.
Right.
So it's not just about individual farmers changing their methods.
Yeah.
We need to create a more level playing field.
Okay, I see that.
You know, subsidies and programs, they can sometimes make it harder for farmers to adopt regenerative practices.
That's interesting.
And then there's consumer demand.
Oh, yeah.
People are more interested in sustainable food than they used to be, but it's still a niche market.
So we need to educate consumers.
Exactly.
Help them understand the benefits. Encourage them to make conscious choices.
Yeah. Put their money where their mouth is.
Right.
When people understand where their food comes from and the impact of their choices, that's when things will really start to change.
It's a good reminder that we all play a part in this.
We do.
It's not just about the farmers.
Yep.
It's all of us. Policymakers, consumers, everyone.
And that's where Kesser and Steen's generation really comes in.
Oh, yeah. How so?
They're asking the important questions.
Yeah.
They're searching for new solutions. They want a better future.
That's inspiring.
It is. The research into this.
Yeah.
Their trip to Brown's Ranch. It's a sign of the times.
It's hopeful.
Yeah. They're not just sitting back and accepting things as they are.
Right.
They're actively shaping the world they want to live in.
I love that.
Yeah.
And who knows?
What?
Maybe they'll be the ones to come up with the next big innovation in regenerative agriculture.
Yeah.
The future's wide open for them.
That's awesome. So I think we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have?
We've talked about the principles of regenerative agriculture. We've explored Brown's Ranch.
Yep.
We've looked at the challenges and the opportunities.
It's been a fascinating journey.
It has.
You know, it's encouraging to see this movement growing.
It is.
To see people embracing a more sustainable, resilient food system.
It gives me hope.
Me too.
And remember, even small actions can make a difference. We're back and feeling pretty inspired after that deep dive into regenerative agriculture. What about you?
Yeah, it's really refreshing, isn't it?
It is.
To see folks like Gabe Brown and his family out there really taking charge, you know?
Taking this holistic approach to food production.
Right.
It gives me a lot of hope.
Me too. Me too. And I think Kesser and Steen would agree with us.
Yeah.
Remember, they're the ones who got us thinking about all of this in the first place.
Right.
With their research on the future of food.
Yeah, can you imagine them at Brown's Ranch?
I know, right?
Soaking it all in, asking a million questions.
Yeah.
They'd come back with a whole new understanding of what's possible.
Totally. You know, one thing that really struck me
What's that?
is that regenerative agriculture isn't just about the environment.
Right.
It's about building this system that works for everybody.
Yeah, yeah.
The farmers, the consumers, the planet.
It's about finding those win-win-win solutions.
Exactly. And the coolest part is, this isn't just some far-off dream.
Right.
It's happening right now.
Yeah.
On farms and ranches all over the place.
All over the world. And it's spreading fast, you know?
Yeah.
Thanks to folks like Understanding Ag. They're giving farmers the tools and support they need to make this shift.
Yeah, they're like building a bridge between the old ways and the new ways, showing that sustainable farming can be both practical and profitable.
And inspiring a whole new generation of farmers and ranchers to do things differently.
Which brings us to you, our listener.
Yeah. What resonated with you the most in our deep dive?
Was it those innovative grazing strategies at Brown's Ranch?
The way they've harnessed natural pest control.
Maybe it's the idea that you can actually make a difference with your food choices.
Right.
Whatever sparked your interest. We hope you'll keep exploring this amazing world of regenerative agriculture.
Yeah. Check out Gabe Brown's book, Dirt to Soil.
Watch his TED Talks.
See if you can find any regenerative farms in your area.
Visit some farmers markets.
Start asking questions about where your food comes from.
Because the future of food really does depend on all of us.
It does.
And every little bit helps.
It all adds up.
That's it for our deep dive today. Thanks for joining us.
And until next time, keep exploring.
Keep learning.
And keep asking those big questions.
All right.